This podcast is brought to you by Legend Comics and Coffee in Omaha, Nebraska, located in scenic downtown Benson. They got a new location. It's absolutely gorgeous. Check it out. And by listeners like you. Go to Patreon/Two-Headed Nerd. Become a patron. Support this show.
Once, they were two best friends managing a comic book store. But when an innocent blood oath went wrong, the two found themselves trapped in the same body, imprisoned in a strange pyramid made of long boxes, buried deep below their hometown, where they are doomed to discuss comic books until the end of time. They were once Joe and Matt. Now they are known as the Two-Headed Nerd. And this is their podcast.
Broadcasting from the Ziggurat at Omaha and caverns deep below the metro area, it is our pleasure to welcome you to episode 765 of the Two-Headed Nerd comic book podcast. I'm your head number one. My name is Matt Baum, and I'm wishing you and yours the happiest and nerdiest of New Year's.
And I'm your head number two, the internet's Joe Patrick. Now that 2024 is officially in the books, it's time to look back at the best comics we read and hand out some little gold monkey statues. Welcome to the 14th annual Golden Beppo Awards.
Each of our winners will take home the coveted THN Golden Beppo Award, featuring Superman's pal, Beppo the Super Monkey, cast in solid 24 carats of gold. Not really sure what that means, but I don't think it's actual gold.
Well, carats is spelled with a C, so I don't think that's right.
Yeah, typically not multiples. But first, Joe, let's give the listeners a little background on Beppo's history, seeing as crypto has been getting a lot of the spotlight recently. Okay?
It's true, and you're all going to laugh when Beppo shows up in the new Superman movie.
That's right.
Beppo was created by Otto Bender and George Papp, first appearing in Superboy number 76 all the way back in October of 1959. That's right. He's almost as old as my mom.
Wow.
That wasn't a dig at my mom. I'm just saying that's a long life for a chimp. Beppo is a Kryptonian. He's a monkey. He's a chimpanzee, really. He's one of Jor-El's test subjects who stowed away on Superman's rocket. And like Superman, Beppo's Kryptonian physiology bestows upon him superpowers when exposed to Earth's yellow sun. Same weaknesses: kryptonite, magic, also bananas. He later joined the Legion of Super Pets, though I don't think that he got to be in that Rock movie.
That's too...
The
really?
Super Pets animated movie with
maybe
The Rock.
Maybe they're like,
that's crypto.
Not a good message to send to kids. Go buy a monkey, you know? I don't know.
I guess.
Maybe.
Whatever. The original Beppo, we'll call this the Earth 1 Beppo, including all of his history and corresponding appearances, they were erased from existence following the collapse of the original multiverse in the 1985 and 1986 Crisis on Infinite Earths event. He was later restored following the rebirth of the Infinite Multiverse during the Dark Crisis of 2022 and 2023. Welcome back, Beppo.
But we also no longer know where Beppo stands in the new DCU. Like, I don't know.
I think it's the sort of thing where it's just like, you know what? I don't need to see him. I'm just happy to know he's out there somewhere.
Fair enough. That's fair. That's fair.
THN is proud to present this prestigious award to the creators who pumped out all the comics we criticized this year. Today, we celebrate 2024, the year in comics, and it all starts with award time in the Ziggurat.
2024 was another wild year for comics. The highest selling books of the year featured new takes on Batman and Spider-Man, but it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that reportedly sold the most copies with the help of over 60 retailer exclusives that you had to order.
There it is.
Thousands of copies to get. Speaking of variants, red band, gory versions of Marvel books were all the rage. G.I. Joe and Transformers were joined by Thundercats, Johnny Quest, and Space Ghost relaunches on the stands, and creator-owned comics just kept getting weirder, scarier, and better.
If you've been paying attention, you know that Matt and I are superhero nerds first and foremost. So let's begin with the best fictional heroes and villains of 2024.
So, little peek at how the sausage is made. I still have not picked my winner, but
I'm actually second guessing mine still. So.
I've got plenty of nominees. I mean, there's all kinds of characters heroes had fantastic years this year. Of course, Hal Jordan's book, Green Lantern, has been wonderful. Flash Gordon has been brought back by Jeff Parker and Will Conrad, and that book is so good, and it's so fun to read a Flash Gordon book. Optimus Prime had another great year. Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Batman were incredible. I loved Scarlet in her miniseries. I don't think I can fight it, though, and I think I got to give my best hero, Beppo, to Absolute Batman. There's no fighting it.
Look, ain't no shame. I get it, man. Just something that you can expect throughout the next little bit of time here. We're going to be talking about the Absolute books a lot.
Yeah. No, they're going to Absolute books and Ultimate
they're going to be
books.
nominated for a lot of different categories, and it's going to be hard not to just pick them for everything.
Yeah.
I didn't. My list is similar. I have Absolute Batman and Wonder Woman on mine as well, Optimus Prime. But I also have Ultimate Spider-Man.
Ultimate Spider-Man should have been on my list.
A bit of a dark horse for some people because I know that book is divisive. She-Hulk, of course, her most recent run by Rainbow Rowell came to an end after, I think, 25 or 30 wonderful issues. Optimus Prime, if I didn't already say that, Duke, the hero of the G.I. Joe universe, the catalyst for the new G.I. Joe reboot, and of course Superman, just the garden variety Superman. His books are both fantastic. I know that some of the extended family stuff isn't for everybody, but as far as the main books go, they're tough to beat.
You got to pick one.
Shit.
And I think yours is, I mean, the choice you had is fine, but I think there's better ones on that list personally. So you pick one.
God damn, you're right. You're right, Matt. And so my award was going to go to Superman. Instead, I think I'm going to give it to Absolute Wonder Woman. I think that this new take on Diana is so interesting.
It's great.
The Batman stuff is great. I love it. It's also corny as hell sometimes.
Oh, sure.
Because Scott Snyder can't help himself.
Yeah.
But Absolute Wonder Woman is just page after beautiful page. And it's not just that her origin's different. She's different.
Yeah.
She's harder. She uses magic. She's scary.
She's whole cloth different. Like, of these other characters that are sort of changed for the Absolute universe, Wonder Woman definitely feels like the largest difference in character to me. But it's still also Wonder Woman, right?
Right. I mean, all the way down to like her mom. She's got a different mom, like it's crazy.
As far as we know, she does. As far as she knows, she does. I don't know.
Well, sure.
Yeah,
right.
There's mystery there.
Absolute Wonder Woman is just a joy to read month in and month out. And I'm really having a blast seeing what Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman are doing with her.
That's a great choice. I like that pick. I think it's a better pick than what you had. I mean, Superman's great.
Look, I love Superman, and I really have loved the Superman books this year.
Superman's going to have a perfectly good 2025. I promise you. So.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
All right. Enough good guys. Let's talk villains. Joe Patrick, who are your nominees for best villain in 2024?
Of course. So I'm just going to start off with Darkseid, who was sort of the catalyst for the DC All-In implosion and the absolute reboot, I guess. Amanda Waller was just finally categorized as a bad guy and dealt with thusly.
Yeah.
I think Black Mask from the Absolute Batman book is terrifying.
He's super scary.
He's just, he's really something.
He's gross.
Blade / Varney, the villain of Blood Hunt.
That's a good pick.
Very fun to watch.
I like that.
Sarah Gaunt, who was the scary child murdering witch hag that fought Rogue's Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone. She's great. Shockwave from the Transformers.
Yeah.
So villainous. Like who would have thought that like that Transformers book would have such great bad guys without Megatron?
I got Shockwave and Starscream on mine.
Starscream is good, but he kind of sat out a lot of 2024.
He did, but
because of the events of the book. But
there's a thing boiling where you have
there's a thing. Yes,
two bad guys that don't get along that also get the good guys. It's great.
But my winner goes to somebody that's also front and center of the Energon universe, and that is Cobra Commander, who is his miniseries where he is shown building Cobra up from nothing, literally nothing. He's cast out of Cobra Law, disgraced with a few bits of technology and some Energon. And by the end of that series, he is running Cobra with Destro, ready to take over the world. It's amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah,
he's so great. And I love this new take on Cobra Commander. Like, I've always loved Cobra Commander, but let's be real. We were raised thinking he was a joke.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the brilliance. So Cobra Commander gets my Beppo as well, because man, we've all loved that character, but he really was kind of either a blank slate or a joke. Like, as far as we knew Cobra Commander, like, he was in charge. He came from here. But I don't think we ever got, like, this definitive origin. So Joshua Williamson got to tell a story that really sets this character up and lets you know we're going to be taking him very seriously. And he is bad news. Like, there's a reason why he's in charge. And it's not because he's a moron that Destro kicks around, right? This Cobra Commander is Dr. Doom level terrifying. He's so great.
Yeah.
Love it. Ones that you named most of mine. Ones on my list that didn't get named. Samantha Strong, who's a serial killer from beneath the trees where nobody sees.
Sure.
The sweetest little bear serial killer you've ever met. I had Dr. Doom on there, and I'm going to talk more about Dr. Doom later. Dr. Doom, great ending to Blood Hunt, secretly like taking over the Sorcerer Supreme role, and he's going to be running the Marvel universe. A lot of it's playing out in Spider-Man right now, and that Dr. Doom one shot that Hickman did, holy shit, that was good.
Doom with Sanford Green.
Yeah. Good year for villains, but Cobra Commander, definitely. I don't think there's any fight in it, especially with the building. So
compelling. Watching
G.I. Joe book too.
The entire like rebuilding of G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Has been fascinating and exciting.
My buddy, wherever I go, he goes, my buddy.
They may not have a big enough name to support their own miniseries or even a one-shot for that matter, but without a supporting cast, our favorite main characters would be awfully lonely. Joe Patrick, who are your nominees for Best Supporting Characters of 2024?
I love supporting characters. They're sometimes my favorite parts of superhero fiction. I love a Jimmy Olsen. He didn't get nominated this year for me. He didn't really have a ton to do in 2024.
Jim didn't do much this year.
Jack of Hearts in Sensational She-Hulk. I loved having him back. I loved the romance. Adorable. Young Albert Einstein from Redcoat.
That's a great choice. I didn't think
that genius little German kid.
He's great.
Or Austrian, right? Clutch from Duke was awesome as Duke's best friend.
Also had Clutch on my list. Such a great a character that like really didn't get any play in the old school G.I. Joe. He was just like
none.
A
Zero.
Mechanic. He was just around. He drove stuff.
Yeah. Absolute Alfred, which is one I stole from you.
Yeah.
He's so great in Absolute Batman. Barbara Gordon in the pages of Nightwing as sort of Dick's partner. And I have just really enjoyed
Babs is wonderful in that book.
That whole thing through the end of Tom Taylor's run. Cersei from Absolute Wonder Woman is super fun to read about. Mon-El, if you're not reading the Action Comics Weekly by Mark Waid, he is back helping Superman fight Phantom Zone criminals, and it's great. But my favorite supporting character of the year goes to Beachcomber from the Transformers.
That's a great choice.
Beachcomber is an Autobot, and traditionally speaking, you would just think, oh, he's with the group, right? But this is different. This version of the Transformers is different. Half of them haven't been introduced yet.
Right.
Some of them are stuck on Cybertron, and some of them, like Beachcomber, got shunted to Earth, separated from the Ark. And so they lived an entire... Oh, no, he was on the moon, actually.
Yeah, he was on the moon.
And so he has lived millions of years as a spectator to the events happening on the planet Earth. And he found, he watched the moon landing, which was an awesome moment. And then he made his way to Earth, and he met Spike, and he's a pacifist, and he wants nothing to do with the war, and that's all great. But then the moment that sealed the deal for Beachcomber.
Don't spoil anything.
Oh, I feel like I gotta.
Nah, don't spoil it. You could just say he's been great. You need to read it and see why. Because
there is a moment towards the end of
don't give it away.
Towards the end of Transformers, the first year of Transformers, where shit's going down on Cybertron, Optimus Prime makes a brutal choice. There is a moment for Beachcomber right there, and I was just like, oh man. That was it. Once I reminded myself of that, I was like, yeah, that guy gets it.
That's a great one. That's an excellent choice. I had most of those on my list. One you didn't name, Big Barda from Birds of Prey.
Oh, sure. Big Barda.
She had a fantastic year. She's got a great little spot in the New Gods book too, that I'm excited for more of her there.
Yes.
The Great Gatsby from Godzilla Monsterpiece Theater.
yeah.
Because had you told me the Great Gatsby was going to be running the G-Force and fighting Godzilla, I would say, I don't know, is Tom Scioli writing this book? Otherwise, I don't want to read it.
Right.
I think mine has to go to Absolute Alfred, though. I think it does, because
that's a good one, man.
This take on Alfred is so great. It's great because I think every time we do Alfred in one way or another, he's always butler dad, and maybe he's a meaner butler or a nicer butler, dad figure. Like this Alfred is completely different and a total badass. And Nick Dragotta draws his hair so weird. I love it.
No, I was looking at Absolute Batman again recently, and there's a moment where Alfred's like, I'm going incognito. Right. And it's like, Alfred, you look like the love child of Rick Rubin and Yahoo Serious. You're not going incognito anywhere.
But I also I like, it's implied that Alfred, when he was younger, was a secret agent, knows he's doing, he's very capable, and he helps Batman out all the time. This Alfred, it's like on the page. This Alfred carries a gun, works for shady government.
He is still a secret agent.
Yeah, he is a full-on secret agent. I love it. He's been fantastic.
Not all comics feature characters in spandex, which is where our next category comes in. Our best lead character or ensemble, Beppo, celebrates all of the other characters in our favorite Western horror, war, sci-fi, or, relaunch a Penthouse comic.
Sure.
Our favorite grim fairy tale.
Yeah.
Matt, it's time to prove that we don't just read Superman and Wolvie books.
We did read a couple others. On my list, I had all the cute animals from Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. I cannot say enough about that series, and it ended so well. Written and drawn by Patrick Hovars. Transformers and G.I. Joe were both on this list. They had to be. Godzilla Monsterpiece Theater is far and away the wackiest ensemble team I have ever
I love it
seen
so
in comics. The Power Fantasy probably has the most interesting ensemble cast in comics right now. That book is so damn good. Helen of Windhorn was another one where I love everybody in that book. It's so damn good. But I think just based on the amount of fun that I had and the originality of it, I've got to give it to the Godzilla Monsterpiece Theater, the G-Force. The G-Force is so cool. It's Gatsby.
The G-Force, which stands for Gatsby Force, not Godzilla Force.
Dracula's there. Sherlock Holmes is there.
Captain Nemo.
Captain Nemo. It's so great. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Alan Moore. The G-Force wins.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that book.
Oh, God, it's great.
So my list is totally different, I think, from yours. A lot of these characters were also nominated for Best Hero or Best Villain, but they are the leads in their respective books. Duke, Cobra Commander, Simon Pure, who is the lead of Redcoat, the immortal Redcoat.
It's a great book.
He is a deliciously fun bastard character to read about. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm going to tell you what, we're going to talk about this at the end when we get to best single issue. But if you're not reading the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book, there's something wrong with you.
Damn, it is good. It's so good.
I also want to give credit where it's due. I know that a lot of people have dropped off and not many people talk about it anymore, but I'm still really enjoying Void Rivals. And I love the ensemble cast. They are not a team. A lot of them are very separated, but there's Derek, Solila, Handroid, who is awesome.
I am not caught up, so I don't know.
Skuxoid,
I kind of fell off
bounty hunter pig man. And then randomly, Springer and Hot Rod from the Transformers are our main characters in the book. It's great. It's so much fun. The most recent issue was the reunion of Springer and Hot Rod, and it was a joy. I loved it. But my best lead character, and the reason he's getting this here, is because I wanted to give a different character to best hero. It's Optimus Prime. His journey in the Transformers book, written by Daniel Warren Johnson and drawn primarily in 2024, drawn by Jorge Corona, has been so compelling. Dude lost an arm and then he replaced it with Megatron's black hole gun arm.
So cool.
It's fucking rad as hell.
That book is just hard as nails. It's great.
And then again, no spoilers, but his final confrontation with Shockwave at the end of the last big arc. Optimus Prime is, for lack of a better, a man broken by war and his inability to protect his own soldiers. And it's such a different and interesting take on that character and that version of the Transformers mythos. That book, man.
Yeah.
I love it still every month.
We're going to talk about that more too. So definitely great choice though. Now it's time to celebrate the creators that didn't out themselves as shitheads on the internet and managed to put out
that we know of,
and managed to put out the best comics of 2024. Let's get into the awards to the people, Joe. Who are your nominees for Best Writer?
This is the other one. So Matt and I last night, we were prepping early, like a little bit of peek behind the curtain. We're recording this early. Normally we record on Wednesdays, or Wednesday nights. We had this ready to go early, and we were both like, okay, I think my list is done, but I need to marinate on some. Best Hero was one of them. Best Writer was the other. And here I am in the moment, and I'm still not sure of my pick.
I know.
Which is really saying something considering who I picked. But here's my list real quick because there's a lot of them. Kelly Thompson, who wrote Scarlet and currently writes Absolute Wonder Woman, Birds of Prey, Black Cloak, among other things. Gail Simone of Uncanny X-Men. Jeff Johns, who is back, baby, with the Ghost Machine books. Dennis Camp, who writes Ultimates. Ram V, who finished up his run on Detective and blew us all the way on the New Gods.
You didn't even like his Detective.
but Rare Flavors and New Gods.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Rainbow Rowell, again for her She-Hulk run. Tom Taylor, who wrapped up Nightwing and launched an incredible new era of Detective Comics. That book is great. Joshua Williamson, who is revitalizing the G.I. Joe universe with Duke, G.I. Joe. Did he also write Cobra Commander? I think he may have.
Yeah, he did. And Transformers.
Well, no, Daniel Warren Johnson
He
writes
worked-
Transformers.
No, I mean, true, but like he's doing stuff in that universe as well.
Yes,
so,
you're right. He
yeah.
does. So he does mostly the G.I. Joe side.
Yeah.
And then he also does Superman. And of course, Mark Waid, who is back at DC in a major way as the ongoing writer of the nearly weekly Action Comics, Batman, Superman, World's Finest, the Absolute Power event, which we both loved,
Yeah.
and the recently launched Justice League Unlimited, whose second issue came out last week. I was going to give it to Mark Waid. I don't know what to do. All right. I'm sticking with my pick. Just because of sheer volume alone of books that are tailor-made for me, that I love, that I have gotten enjoyment out of, Mark Waid gets my Beppo. But I'm a hair's breadth away from giving it to Kelly Thompson.
Fair enough. So names that made my list that didn't make yours. I have Dennis Camp on here for his work on the Ultimates.
I said Dennis Camp.
Oh, did you? I didn't hear you. Tom
Yep.
King for his work on Wonder Woman and Helen of Windhorn, which is just an incredible book. Kieran Gillen's on my list for the Power Fantasy. And I may, if there were more issues of that book, I may have just handed it to Kieran Gillen because it is one of the smartest comics I've ever read. But I got to give it to Joshua Williamson. Joshua Williamson's work on G.I. Joe in that universe, his work at DC on the Superman books and stuff. He just...
Green Arrow, which
Green Arrow.
we hardly ever talk about.
Which has been excellent. Like, he's just killing it. He's absolutely killing it. And I've had so much fun with the stuff that he wrote. Patrick Horvath, who wrote Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, is on my list as well, because that was just one of the most original and incredible stories I read all year.
I need to finish it. Yeah. That's the only reason why I haven't mentioned it yet.
Yeah, I'm giving mine to Joshua Williamson, though, just for his breadth of work and how much
deserves it.
fun I have had with this G.I. Joe relaunch.
He deserves it.
Holy shit, that book is great.
I was already like so primed for G.I. Joe to come back at Skybound, to be rebooted at
Yeah.
Skybound. And then they just, like, Duke #1, I think, came out in December of 23.
Yeah. I made fun of you
The
for
rest of-
putting it
but
on,
the rest
giving
of
it a
it
Beppo
came out
with
in-
one issue.
The rest of it came out in 2024, as well as Cobra Commander. Man, phenomenal.
Williamson had a
phenomenal.
fantastic year. Definitely. No question.
Without big splashy pictures of explosions, big boobs, and tight butts. We'd just be reading real books, and our attention span just isn't built for more than 48 pages these days.
It's true. It's true.
Unless it's a holiday special.
Yeah.
And we know it's going to be 80 or more. Matt, who are your nominees for Best Artist of 2024?
There was so many good artists this year. We just freaked out about Evan Cagle's work on the New Gods. His Dawn Runner book is stunning. Isad Ribic is killing it on his Aliens versus Avengers stuff. Bilquis Evely, again, Helen of Windhorn. That book is just fucking gorgeous. Dan Mora, who does too much DC stuff for me to even name here. Like, that dude
It's
did
true.
so many comics this year.
Yeah,
But
it's true.
I think there was one artist that just like stood out to me, and every time I saw what they were working on, whether it was superhero stuff or weird sci-fi mystery or crime noir shit, that's Hayden Sherman, man. That dude can do whatever he wants. He's incredible and no slouch. Like, he doesn't dial it back. And he does it just a little differently every time, depending on what
That's
he's
exactly
working
what
on,
I was going to
too.
say. Each project has a slightly different flavor
It's
to it.
crazy. And it's not like those artists where it's like he can just draw whatever he wants. Like, oh, you want this to look like Jack Kirby? Here's Jack Kirby. You want this to look like, he's not like that at all.
No, it all looks like Hayden Sherman.
It's his style, but he's just doing it a little different based on the project. And there's so much thought that goes into his art. That guy's incredible. Gets my golden Beppo.
I love it.
Love it.
Hayden got my Beppo as well for his work on Absolute Wonder Woman, Batman, Dark Patterns, and Into the Unbeing, among what I'm sure are multiple other projects that we have failed to mention.
Yeah.
My list had a lot of overlap with yours, but I also included Michael Janin, who is we talked about it when the first issue of his run on Detective came out, that something has happened and he has elevated himself to the next level.
Yeah.
His work on that book is so good. David Marquez on Uncanny X-Men, Pepe Larraz on Blood Hunt, Tom Riley, who did Duke and now does the G.I. Joe ongoing, Evan Cagle, who probably is going to be a contender for next year, but on the strength of one issue of New Gods, I just couldn't give it to him.
No, fair. But Dawn Runner, my God, that
Dawn
book
Runner
looks
is
good.
great, yeah. Jorge Corona as well, I want to give a shout out to for his work on Transformers and Ain't No Grave. A lot of people complained when Daniel Warren Johnson stepped back from the art reins on Transformers, but Jorge Corona's art is so good.
Yeah.
On that book. I love it. But Hayden Sherman, hands down, can't be beat.
Yeah, he's too good. With hundreds of comics hitting the stands every Wednesday, comic readers are literally forced to choose a book by its cover sometimes. So let's give a shout out and a Beppo to our best cover artist of 2024.
My list, it's going to have a lot of overlap. Evan Cagle, Dawn Runner, Detective Comics.
Right there.
Dan Mora, who World's Finest, Absolute Power, Superman, Justice League Unlimited. Hayden Sherman, Michael Janin. Brian Hitch, who is also doing career-defining work on Redcoat.
He's gotten even better.
And look, I don't want this to be like a left-handed compliment or anything, but we went through a few years where I was like, I just don't really like Brian Hitch as much as I used to.
Same. And I think he was just sharpening. He was learning something new, like adding a new weapon to his arsenal.
He came back with Redcoat in a big way for me. Junie Ba, who wrote and drew The Boy Wonder. That book is beautiful. The covers were amazing. My Beppo, though, it goes to Daniel Warren Johnson for Transformers. I went back and I looked at all of I looked at covers for most of my nominees, like cycling through all the covers they did in the year.
Right.
And with each new cover I saw or was reminded of from Transformers, it was just like, oh man, that was great.
They're incredible.
Man, that's cool.
Those Transformers
holy
covers.
Shit. That's, oh my God.
They're just all like death metal record covers. They're so good.
And, a lot of them are like, they're not necessarily representative of specific events in the books. Like one of them has Optimus Prime holding up the Earth like Atlas, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then another one has Devastator looking down on the lowly Transformers on the ground from high up in the. It's just like
they're amazing.
You never know what you're gonna get, but every one of them is a literal, like, beautiful, intense, badass work of art.
Yeah, definitely. Names that you didn't mention that are on my list: Ian Bertram, who does Precious Metal. Those covers are outlandishly cool. They're so wild. And he did a bunch of variant stuff over at Marvel as well. That's just amazing. Evan Cagle, Detective Comics, just Dawn Runner as well. Like, both are absolutely amazing. Alex Ross continues to put out the best Fantastic Four covers ever done. End of line. I don't think anyone's going to do it better than these, too. Like, man, some of them were just unreal good this year. The one where Reed is just like peeking up out of like the magma, like looking like, oh my God, they're so good.
Alex Ross is another artist where I went through a time where I was like, Alex Ross is great, but I feel like Alex Ross is always kind of the same.
Sure.
And then he put out that Fantastic Four graphic novel a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it just kicked his career.
And then he started doing like the Immortal Hulk, where it started cover wise is with the Immortal Hulk, and then it has only continued with his work on Thor and Fantastic Four.
His Thor
as well.
Covers are fucking amazing. I gave him my Golden Beppo this past year. It was really hard for me not to do it this year, but I got to go with Evan Cagle. those Detective Comics covers that he did.
They're real. They're really
They
beautiful.
are haunting. They are etched. They are so crazy detailed. Like you can just see his art. One thing I will say about Alex Ross is he's so good that I cannot picture him producing the art. Like I honestly don't. I get it. He's a painter, but I cannot in my mind see him just like painting this, right?
Sure, right.
Evan Cagle, when you sit down and look at his covers, you can see this maniac got in there with a pencil.
You can follow the grooves of the
it's
pencil lines.
crazy.
And stuff, yeah.
He's just so good, and he's just going to get better. Evan Cagle, my cover artist.
I mean, that's
of
a
the
great
year.
one. I think next year we're going to have a hard time shutting up about Evan Cagle at next year's awards.
Definitely.
Our final round of awards goes to the comics themselves, and we begin with stories that get it done in as little as 4 issues, sometimes less. Here are the nominees for Best Miniseries of 2024. Matt, kick us off.
Best miniseries for me this year. Tony Fleeks did a follow-up to Stray Dogs called Feral, about cats. Stray Dogs was sort of a horror story, and this one is more of a zombie story, but instead of zombies, the cats are dealing with a rabies outbreak, and it is so good and so creepy and so horrible what happens to some of these cute little kitties. Cobra Commander, of course, on that list. Godzilla Monster Piece Theater. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees from IDW. The Boy Wonder, DC Black Label. Blood Hunt over at Marvel. They were all so much fun, but I think ultimately I got to go best miniseries is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees from IDW. It just stood out as an absolute bizarre exercise that should not work if you tell someone about it. By the end, Horvath landed this. He just landed it. He landed that story. It started out great. It ended great. I want an animated cartoon of this so bad. It's so good. I loved it.
I need to finish it.
Oh, loved it.
Well, gosh, you named a lot of mine. Godzilla, Monster Piece, of course. Helen of Windhorn was a 6-issue mini. Scarlet, Cobra Commander, Absolute Power was a wonderful short 4-issue event that we loved.
They kept it tight.
Yeah, they did. A lot of tie-ins, but hey, you didn't need to read them.
They did not keep Blood Hunt tight.
Blood Hunt was longer.
It was still good.
But it was still only, I think, 5 issues.
7.
Oh, 7, yeah. But still, that's not so bad. The Boy Wonder blew me away this year.
That book was fantastic.
But I'm giving it to the series that relaunched one of my favorite things from childhood, and that is Duke by Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley.
That's great.
I was so thrilled by how well they executed the rebirth of the G.I. Joe universe. And it all started with Duke, a man on the outs with the military because he saw an airplane transform into a gigantic robot and slaughter his friends.
That'll mess you up, man. That'll get you.
That's like that is a take on Duke that no one has obviously ever done.
Well, to take on G.I. Joe as well, where it's just like it's such a great reason to launch. And like they at this point, they didn't even know that Cobra was going to be their worst enemy. They're like, nah, we're worried about giant robots.
Robots, yeah. Robots. Yeah. And man, the G.I. Joe books. The path to entry seems long because there were 4 minis, but 3 out of the 4 minis were amazing, and one of them was pretty good.
Yeah. Destro was the only one that I thought was pretty good. The rest of them,
pretty good.
Man. And not to mention like the speed that you can read, like that Scarlet mini.
They're quick.
It's like 2 back-to-back action scenes.
It's quick, man. They're quick.
God,
and then G.I. Joe is up to like 2 or 3 now, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And now we're getting into things that like they're introducing serious takes on the sillier concepts that we remember from being kids. And it's like, oh God, that's horrifying. Actually getting shot with a blue laser is bad news.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's super bad.
But yeah, man, Duke started it all.
When the big two weren't relaunching titles or rebranding characters, we found some time to check out some new series too. Now we move to the best new series of 2024. Joe Patrick, who are your nominees?
You know what? I think we're going to have a lot of overlap here. My list is a lot of the usual suspects: the Power Fantasy, Justice League Unlimited, which is at number 2 so far, the new TMNT book, Redcoat, G.I. Joe, Absolute Batman, Ultimate Spider-Man. But my favorite new series of the year is Absolute Wonder Woman. I can't deny it.
It's great.
If New Gods had launched like 2 or 3 months earlier, it would probably be New Gods.
Yeah.
But Absolute Wonder Woman, it just floors me how much I'm enjoying that book.
It's fantastic.
And the obvious like thoughtfulness and care that Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman are taking with creating this new take on Diana's lore. It really is just a wonderful series. And it ain't all flowers and going on dates with Steve Trevor. It's like, I'm going to fight this 50-foot tall demon whose face opens up like the Predator.
Yeah, it's great.
And then who spits tiny little versions of itself all over the shore.
This is probably why we both gave Hayden Sherman best artist as well.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just like, no, it's like, if Transformers was like the most heavy metal comic of 2 or 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, Absolute Wonder Woman is the most heavy metal comic we got going right now.
Fair. I think that's fair. I had a bunch of those on my list. I would also mention Dawn Runner was in my best new series. The Moon is Following Us from Image is just gut-wrenching.
Yes,
good.
I love that book.
Oh, it's great. TMNT is on here for me as well. I am rethinking mine now, honestly, because my gut reaction was to say Absolute Batman, just because it's like that book just blew me away and I'm having so much fun with it. But right behind that was G.I. Joe. And I'm thinking, well, there's only like 3 issues of G.I. Joe so far. But I think if you look at like the build up,
there's only 3 issues of Absolute Batman.
There's only 3 issues of Absolute Batman as well. And I think if you look at the build up to the G.I. Joe book, I would count it all. I would count Scarlet. I would count Cobra Commander.
I would too.
And I think it's got to be G.I. Joe is my best new series. I think IDW is just crushing this with Joshua Williamson at the helm. Man, it's got to be. Like,
I think that's fair.
This is the take on G.I. Joe that we have wanted since we grew up and started thinking about how much we loved the toys and the cartoons as an adult. Right? You know?
I agree completely.
Yeah, it's got to be G.I. Joe.
Now here's where semantics get a little weird. New series, they're great, but if it wasn't for existing ongoing series, publishers wouldn't have anything to relaunch, renumber, or retitle. Matt, what are your nominees for best ongoing series of 2024?
This is another one that was like really hard for me because there's so much good stuff. Absolute Batman is on this list again as well. Ultimate Spider-Man had to be there. Ultimates, which Transformers is here. TMNT. The thing that stands out to me is like the series that hit me the most from the big 2. Absolute Wonder Woman's on here as well. Were the Absolute books and the Ultimate books. Like the rest of the stuff that's going on, a lot of it's fine and I'm having fun with some of it. But I think the best stuff they're doing is a shit where they're just like, all bets are off and we can have fun with it and we can just,
right.
You know, and it was the kind of thing when we announced this stuff, we were like, I don't want to pay attention to another universe. And now we're like, this is so good. Right.
Right.
But as far as keeping the momentum going for a series and it just getting better and better and better with each issue, it's Transformers. Hands down. That book is so great. Every month. It's like the first thing I read when it comes out.
It's true.
And I just giggle. I literally giggle while I read the book. It is so packed full of violence and action and your favorite wrestling finishing moves. I cannot get enough of it. It's just Daniel Warren Johnson nerding all over the page and having a great time and injecting so much serious high stakes emotion into robots in disguise. And I don't know how else to sell it better than that. I love that book, Transformers.
I don't think you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I'll be perfectly honest. If you've been listening to our Beppos for more than a couple of years, you might know that the only reason that some books don't get nominated for some categories is because I nominated them in another, and I wanted a chance to give them out as many awards as I wanted to my favorites. Sure. My list, Action Comics, which has been great with the Phantom Zone stuff. Superman with the Return of Doomsday. Not going to lie. It's awesome. Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Redcoat, TMNT, Uncanny X-Men, Detective Comics. But the Dark Horse wins it. My favorite ongoing series of the year is Ultimate Spider-Man.
Fair.
That book. So
I was down on it, and I caught up in the past 2 months, and now it's like Hickman was just doing Hickman stuff, and like I, for some reason, got ahead of my skis with it. It was like, oh, come on, Hickman, you're being a little long-winded.
You were too used to him not doing this Hickman stuff in the X-Men books.
Yes. This is what he does, and it's great. It's so good. It just took a minute to get to where it was, you know?
Ultimate Spider-Man, and I'm not saying it's as good or that it will be as good in the long run. I'm just saying that right now, Ultimate Spider-Man feels like all of the things I love about Ultimate Spider-Man were all of the things I loved about his run on Fantastic Four, where it's more about the family and the characters. And yeah, there's a cool plot. And yeah, it's fun to see what differences there are and how these new characters develop in this new version of the universe. But really, if you want to give me an issue where Uncle Ben and J. Jonah Jameson have coffee and talk about their plans to form their new newspaper to take down Wilson Fisk, I'm like, yeah, I want it.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't care.
It's great.
I don't care if I see a single web spun that issue. And that book is that it really hits a lot of the right notes for me. We did go through a time where we had some fill-in art, but the fill-in artist was still good.
It was
David
still good.
Messina.
It was still good. You know what?
But Marco Cicchetto is the regular artist.
Incredible.
And it's tough to beat.
I
Ultimate Spider-Man's my favorite ongoing book of the year.
I should have thought of Jonah and Robbie as like best side characters too. They should have been nominated. They were so good.
You mean Uncle Ben or?
No, I'm sorry. Uncle Ben and Robbie Robertson from
Uncle Ben and J. Jonah Jameson.
And J. Jonah Jameson. Their relationship is just adorable. It's so good. I love it.
I keep waiting for them to like fall in love.
I know.
don't think that's where we're going.
I wish they just would get married. You do.
No, I think they're just they're brothers. They're like brothers.
Sometimes it takes more than one hero to save the day, and let me tell you, nothing tickles the THN pickle like a great team book. Joe Patrick, let's hear your nominees for Best Team Book of 2024.
You know what? This one was a little bit tougher for me because team books, I haven't really loved a ton of the team books that I've been reading, but a couple of our MVPs from earlier in the show also count, like G.I. Joe and Transformers are great team books. The Ultimates, which we mentioned before by Dennis Camp, is fantastic. Uncanny X-Men, I love it. The new JSA issue 3 came out today as we record this. I read it before we recorded.
It's very good.
It was great.
There just wasn't enough of that JSA.
No, for sure.
Yet. That's all.
The new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book is a blast, but they're only now are they all together. Yeah. Up until this point, they've been separate. But my favorite for me, and even though it's only 2 issues in, I said it when we reviewed number 1. This comic book was every single thing that I wanted it to be. And that is Justice League Unlimited. I think that Justice League Unlimited takes the concept of the team book and is perfecting it.
I think so too. There wasn't enough of it to make my list. That's all. Next
I
year,
mean, and that's
it probably
fair.
will.
That's your choice.
I just didn't have enough of it to hit me. You named off everything on my list. Birds of Prey was on my list as well too.
Birds of Prey is good. Yeah.
Continues to be great, but man, I have to give my Beppo to the Ultimates, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but it's sure.
No, it's good.
It sure feels like Dennis Camp is doing all of the work in this Ultimate relaunch. Hickman's getting all the credit, I think, but Dennis Camp is building the entire world in that book.
I think Hickman is the architect.
Yeah.
And Dennis Camp is the one that's building the foundation.
Yeah. Dennis Camp is the one wearing the gloves and getting the blood on him.
Right. Well, yeah, literally in a lot of cases. Yeah. Dennis Camp is, and with apologies to Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Black Panther, both of which I'm very, very, very far behind on. No judgment or comment about what their quality.
I dropped them both.
I understand, but I wasn't going to go there. But I feel like Ultimates is the only book that's actually furthering the plot that Hickman set forward in Ultimate Invasion.
He's building the entire universe.
That's all, but this is all by design. Because we just had the 1 year in special, that this is all planned out.
And that gave us like a peek of all the bad guys that we had in that mini series that set this stuff up, but we didn't realize how bad they are. Oh man, it's so good. I love it.
Truly. It all comes down to this. Our most dreaded award of the year.
It's awful. I hate this one.
The best single issue we read all year. Matt, I can't speak for you because I know that you have a system, and I'm going to steal that system for 2025.
Okay.
About keeping track.
It's a real easy one to help.
I'm sure it is. But I find it so hard to remember everything that I read. I have a list of everything I reviewed, sure. But it's not just the books that I reviewed. There's also the books that Matt reviewed.
Sure.
And it's so difficult. But I came up with a list. Matt, I'm going to let you go first. What single issue gets slabbed as the best of 2024 in the THN Permanent Collection?
So a lot of these are probably on your list as well. But Absolute Batman, #1, of course, had to be up there.
Yes.
The Boy Wonder, #4, which is... Man, it is basically Damian telling the story of his mom and how sad that story actually is. And
while we're at it, The Boy Wonder #2, which is all about Jason Todd's trauma about being brought back from beaten to death and then brought back from the dead.
That one was great too. Oh my God. Yeah. The Power Fantasy #1 blew me away. Jonathan Hickman's Doom one-shot was so
Doom one-shot is on my list.
Good.
Yes.
TMNT #2. I love #1, but #2 hit me. It was so good. Whoa. But I think I have to give it to Absolute Batman. I think Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta probably had the most hype to live up to in the business this year. And they just did it easily. They did it and they made it slick and fun and laugh out loud ridiculous at times. And we're all just eating it up with a spoon. Yes, Batman has an axe now. Yes, Batman has spikes that come out of his shoulders.
He drives a killdozer.
It's too much fun. And I feel bad for not mentioning Nick Dragotta in my artist of the year too. The art on that book is outstanding. It's got to be Absolute Batman. There's just no way around it.
No, that's a good pick, man. And that's on my list as well. As is Ultimate Spider-Man #1, where we finally got to look at how exactly Jonathan Hickman was going to do things a little bit differently in this new universe. Nightwing 118, which I just reread last night.
That's a great book.
As a finale to Tom Taylor's run on that book. I wish it had been the last issue of the series because what has followed has not been as good.
No, it really hasn't. It's almost like they didn't have a plan. Like they didn't know he was leaving.
Well, I mean, they had a plan. It's just that he's a tough act to follow.
Yeah.
And Doom, the Doom one shot, of course, TMNT number 4 was the one for me.
That one was-
which was all about Donatello.
Yeah.
Being captured by an underground, basically a ring of like a cockfighting ring or a dogfighting ring,
Yeah.
except it was mutants, animal mutants that they forced to fight, and most of them were like the otter from Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
You know, and like they didn't stand a chance. And then finally, thank God, they got Donatello.
Yeah.
And he spent however many months protecting those poor animals. And then his brothers show up and he's like, what the fuck? Yeah. Oh my God, that issue. Boy, see, now I'm debating. I'm waffling.
Well, you got to pick one, son.
Damn it, I know.
You got to do it.
All right, so I'm waffling between the New Gods number 1, which I literally said was extraordinary.
It was.
And Absolute Wonder Woman number 1, which launched a new version of this character that I can't look away from. Oh,
I think you should just say, well, sorry, we're going to split and give it to TMNT. There's those, just like the Oscars do. Just like the Oscars do it.
yeah.
And you're right. Four. I loved issue 2, but you're right. 4, that one. I love that choice as well that he's taken of like, all right, we know the turtles will all look the same. So here's the first 4 issues are all going to focus on the characters and define who they are.
And what they've been up to since the end of the previous run.
And that Donatello issue was like, oh my God. Yeah. That's
but I mean,
exactly
also like the Michelangelo issue with him as the Hong Kong action star.
Whoa, it was great.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, they've all been good. You know what? It might be recency bias, but who gives a shit? It's my show. It's our show. I'm giving it to the New Gods number 1. I loved Absolute Wonder Woman. I really did.
That New Gods
But
book.
The New Gods number 1, I'm not kidding you guys. It's something special. And the rest of the series may not live up to the example that it sets, but as far as that one issue is concerned, I don't think I enjoyed anything as much as I enjoyed reading that.
It was fantastic.
Excelsior! Oh.
That is it for the 2024 Golden Beppo Awards. We will see you guys at the after party. It is a black tie event, so no superhero t-shirts. You get it? All right?
It's a black tie event, but pants are optional.
Sure. Next week, it's the first new comic review show of 2025. We're going to give you a preview of our Patreon Extra as well. If you need more THN in the meantime, join us for the THN Gang Hang on Saturdays at 11 o'clock Central this week. We want to hear about what you thought of our picks and your best of 2024. Not just comics, TVs, movies, video games, wrestlers, whatever you want. Let's talk about it on the Gang Hang. Best of 2024 this weekend. Check out our Discord for details if you want to get in on the discussion. And Joe, tell them what else they can do while at our Discord.
Like our friend Young Keith, you can learn the differences between the Jackal from the novel and the Peacock show, The Day of the Jackal, and Carlos the Jackal from real life. You can discuss how much Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor is looking like Pitbull in recently released
He does like a Mr. Worldwide
Mr.
thing going.
305.
Yeah.
Mr. Worldwide.
He's got a Mr. Worldwide thing going.
Yeah. And you can place your bets on what exactly Jonathan Hickman's upcoming Marvel event Imperial is. All we have so far is a text teaser.
I have a feeling once they tell us what it is, we're still going to have to discuss what it is.
Yeah.
It's Jonathan Hickman.
And I like most things, whatever it actually is will not be as exciting as us guessing what it is.
Yeah.
Or, hey, maybe you just want to answer the question of the week, which Matt kind of already said. It's time for the THN Listener's Choice Awards. We want to know your favorite things from 2024. Comic books. You can use our categories. You can make up your own categories if you want.
Sure.
Favorite video game you played, favorite movie you saw, favorite TV show, favorite music or band.
Let's keep this
best
one.
restaurant
Let's
you
keep
went
this
to.
one to comics. And if you want to discuss that, come to the Gang Hang. We'll do that there. Everything
Yes,
else.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, who cares?
Question-
Get on the Discord. It's
Yeah.
not like they're taking up time.
No, but the question's for the comics, and we'll
The
talk
question
about
is
the Gang Hang.
specifically geared towards the comics,
Yeah.
but you can. Hey, best comic book you read about a guy who fights a corrupt medical institution with a bow staff and bioelectric powers.
Sure.
It's Amazing Spider-Man 344, starring Cardiac. We do need your question of the week suggestions, so please keep them coming. It's a new year. We need them.
Yeah, post them right there in that question of the week channel. That's what it's for, you know?
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
And somebody did post one. It was Hebrews. Thank you, Hebrews. You can sign up for our Discord at twoheadednerd.com/Discord, and once you're allowed in, no jerks allowed. You can post about any of our segments there, or you can email us at twoheadednerd@gmail.com. We'll put you on the show.
If you're new to this show and you can't believe we didn't even mention Gunslinger Spawn in our Beppos, I assure you it's only because you haven't heard enough. Scorcher is the book we should have been talking about this whole time.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Rat City.
If you're going to pick
Use the
one,
book.
Scorcher, I'm telling you. The good news, you can hear the entire run of THN in our digital longbox archive at twoheadednerd.com. THN is a listener-supported podcast. It wouldn't be possible without the generosity of our donors like the gelatinous entity from Earth 27, formerly known as Mark Tarrington. Mark makes a yearly gift on top of his monthly gift. This friggin' guy. Now, it may not, like, real, human money may not mean much to him where he's from. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it, is that he has no use for
Yeah.
it being a gelatinous entity.
If you like what you hear every week, it's easy to support the show. You can sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/twoheadednerd.
Before we go, our weekly shout out goes to all of our listeners far and wide that supported me and Matt last year. The past 12 months were pretty shitty on a number of different levels, but making this show and hanging out with all of you were definitely among the bright spots.
And the good news is, looks like 2025 is going to be great. Nothing to worry about.
You know what?
No reason to distract yourself and read more comics.
Keep that negativity for another show. Word to you, friends, wherever you call home, and may 2025 be more kind to you and yours than 2024 was.
Until next time, true believers, remember to pre-order your comics, although it's becoming a moot point because of the monkeys at Diamond can't seem to get anything shipped on time. This is the Two-Headed Nerd, signing off.
It's still important. It is not a moot point. Retailers still have to order it.